almost had a 690 close in here for the NASDAQ, but we did get a drop off right there at the last second. Right before close, and then in after hours as well, a little bit of a pullback. So we're going to see where things kind of end up as the futures open on Sunday night. We're going to take a breather in here. A crazy week. Everybody is probably exhausted in here just from all the volatility that we had, that went away, that came back in. So it's going to be a nice little relaxing weekend, hopefully, if nothing crazy happens over the weekend regarding geopolitical things and stuff like that. But all in all, great earnings week. We had Warsh speaking, we had PCE, so we had a lot of things going on this week. Our VIX was above 20, then obviously kind of came back down. So a lot of things happened this past week, but overall, NASDAQ in here, or I'm sorry, the Qs that is, almost closed at 690, had a drop off in there. We opened up today, and we had that sharp, really, really sharp, quick run up to about 694, 695 in here. And then immediately everything just kind of fell apart. So that's when we got that big pullback in here again today. We were looking for a little bit of a V-shaped recovery. We tried it, didn't really get it, and then had another recovery in here. It wasn't as much as you would expect or have as we've seen in the past, just as far as this past week goes. But still, overall, a nice little recovery in here. And then just kind of everything just kind of trickled out, right, as we got into close here. And then obviously, well, that one last little run up and then a big pullback there right as 4 o'clock hit. So going forward, what are we looking at in here for our QQQ? We want to get above this 9-day EMA. It's currently sitting at 699. That's basically the big number in here, right? 700, so everybody's focusing on. But we want to get above 690 first. A 690 close would have felt better overall. I don't think technically it really made a difference, but I think just closing in the 690s feels better than closing at 687, right? So all things being equal, we're still just focusing on that 699 or that $700 level in here. Also to the downside in here, say we get a gap down, we're still looking at 675. That's still the number in here to watch out for. Anything outside of that, 664. And then we have to mention 659 just because that was the kind of the underwater number that we had in here a couple of days ago from that big, large pullback that we did have. To the upside in here, anything above 700, 711, and then 722. Your RSI is neutral in here, so everything kind of got reset within the past month and a half in here, and you can see just 3 red candles in a row. Although this one, we got a little hammer going on here, so perhaps a little bit of a directional change in here, but 700 is going to be the thing, or I guess the level in here that we do need to beat going forward. We're going to take a look at Micron in here as well, more or less kind of the same moral of the story in here, but the big news is that we did not get a close up here above that major level of that 850 in here. We're above it just a little bit for just a blink of the eye in here on that recovery, and then everything started pulling back, and then you actually had a run up in your SPY and in your NASDAQ, and then Micron and AMD did not go with the market and actually had an inverse correlation, SanDisk as well. So that is going to be something that we do need to be aware of as we go into next week. What is going to happen as far as the correlation with Micron and the NASDAQ now and the SPY. So we have to keep an eye on all of those. And also, more or less all your Mag 7, you kind of have to figure out what's going to happen too, right? Because you had Amazon with the big gap up and go with the earnings. You had Apple with the big drawdown because of earnings. Same thing happened with Microsoft and Meta. So everything has to even out at some point. So we're going to see if that starts to kind of happen next week. And then we have to also watch the correlations with all of those, right? So when we're looking at Micron, we're not just looking at specifically Micron itself and comparing that with the SPY and the Qs. We are doing that, but we're more or less looking at kind of everything in tech, and then obviously more specifically just the sector in here with AMD, NVIDIA, SanDisk as well. So we're seeing what's going on in here. Technically, what are we looking at in here? If we get a gap down, then obviously we're looking at 800, then 746. Outside of that, basically chalking it up 600. To the upside in here, we want to get above 864. That's our first resistance in here. Outside of that, we're looking at 900 and then 981. So let's see what happens in here in Micron. All in all, Um, Not the greatest day in here. You had some volatility kicked in, so that's always good. I think the most surprising thing about today was just how quickly that pullback happened. Not to say that we were surprised on a pullback. No, we were due. We get that. You know what I mean? You can't just run up like that and expect nothing to happen, especially at open like we did in here today. But I think how quickly everything just kind of fell apart, and then I think that also scared a lot of people, so they weren't actually buying the dip as they were just a couple of days ago on that big 20-point drop in the SPY, right? So I think that was also kind of scaring people because then they started selling things off the tops here and there. And then when we did get a pretty decent recovery in here to that 690 at the end of the day, it was immediately sold off. So that's something to keep an eye on going forward. But all in all, we'll take this day for what it's worth. We're going to see what happens as we go into next week. Take a breather in here, just kind of relax over the weekend, and then we'll see what craziness is going to happen as far as volatility in the overall markets next week. So let's see what happens in here as we open up a new week and a new month, and then a whole new week of earnings in here next week. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you are interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.